Have you ever thought your life was perfect, only to realize it was all a lie? For years, I believed I had it all: a loving husband, a beautiful son, and a life that felt like a dream. But everything changed the day I found my 7-year-old son's birthday wish. It wasn't for toys or games like most kids his age. No, his wish was something far more heartbreaking. He just wanted his dad to come home more. That one innocent wish opened a door I wasn't ready to walk through, a door that revealed secrets I never imagined. This is the story of how my world fell apart and how I found the strength to rebuild it. The crumpled paper trembled in my hands as I read my 7-year-old son's birthday wish list. But instead of toys or games, Liam's messy handwriting revealed words that would shatter my world. Dear Mom, I don't want any presents this year. I just want Dad to come home more. I miss him, and I know you're sad when he's not here. I'm Olivia Chen, a 3rd-grade teacher at Riverside Elementary, and until that moment, I thought I was living the perfect suburban life. It's funny how a child's innocent words can tear down years of carefully constructed denial. Mom, did you find my list? Liam called from the kitchen, where he was supposed to be finishing his math homework. I want to make sure Santa knows to tell Dad, too. I quickly wiped my eyes. Yes, sweetie, I found it. My voice somehow stayed steady. How about we make some hot chocolate while you finish that math? Extra marshmallows? His eyes lit up. Extra marshmallows, I promised, tucking the letter into my pocket. The paper felt like it was burning against my leg. Later that night, after Liam was asleep, I sat at my desk grading papers, but I couldn't focus. My phone buzzed with Ethan's usual text. Working late again, big project, don't wait up. I picked up my red grading pen and made a harsh mark across a student's paper. The color reminded me of the lipstick stain I'd found on his shirt collar last month. He'd claimed it was from when I hugged him that morning. I hadn't worn red lipstick in years. My phone rang, startling me. It was Rachel, my best friend since college. You're still grading papers at midnight? She asked without preamble. Where else would I be? Have you talked to him yet? I stared at the red marks on the paper. About what? About how he's working late 4 nights a week? About how our son is asking Santa to bring his father home? Rachel's voice softened on the other end of the line. Olivia, you know he's not working late, right? Nobody works that much overtime in marketing. I swallowed hard, the words catching in my throat like shards of glass. I need proof before I say anything. I need to be sure. And now? Rachel asked gently. I glanced at Liam's letter, still tucked in my pocket. Now, I have my son writing birthday wishes about his absent father. That's all the proof I need. The next day, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Ethan had been distant for months, but I'd convinced myself it was just the stress of his new promotion. Now, every little detail felt like a clue I'd ignored. The late nights, the missed dinners, the way he always smelled like fresh cologne when he came home late, as if he'd just applied it. That evening, while Ethan was working late again, I decided to clean out the closet in our bedroom. It was something I'd been meaning to do for weeks, but now it felt like a mission. As I sorted through his things, I found a crumpled receipt tucked into the pocket of one of his jackets. It was from a high-end restaurant downtown, the kind of place we hadn't been to in years. The date on the receipt was from last Friday, a night he'd told me he was stuck in the office. My heart pounded as I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the receipt. I wanted to believe it was nothing, but deep down, I knew better. The next morning, after dropping Liam off at school, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I opened the browser history on our shared computer, something I'd never thought to check before. My stomach churned as I scrolled through the searches. Luxury apartments near the beach, romantic restaurants in the city, best anniversary gifts for her. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. This wasn't just a suspicion anymore. This was real. That night, I decided to follow him. Ethan had texted me earlier saying he'd be working late again. I told him I'd be busy grading papers and wouldn't wait up. But instead of staying home, I parked my car a block away from his office and waited. At 8:30 p.m., I saw him leave the building. But instead of heading to his car, he walked down the street and entered a small cafe. I followed, keeping my distance. Through the window, I saw him sitting at a table with a woman. She was younger, with long blonde hair and a bright smile. They were laughing, leaning in close to each other. She reached across the table and touched his hand. I felt like I was going to be sick. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I wanted to burst into the cafe and confront him right then and there, but I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I drove home, my mind racing. I needed to think. I needed a plan. The next day, I called Rachel and told her everything. "I saw him," I said, my voice shaking. "With her." Rachel didn't sound surprised. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But I can't let this go. Not for Liam. Not for me." That evening, I waited for Ethan to come home. For once, he wasn't late. He walked through the door at 7:30, his tie loosened, his briefcase in hand, and that same practiced smile on his face. The smile that used to make my heart skip a beat now made my stomach churn. "Hey," he said casually, setting his briefcase down. "Dinner smells great." I didn't respond. Instead, I stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, watching him carefully. "How was work?" I asked, my voice calm but cold. "Busy," he replied, loosening his tie further. "You know how it is. End of quarter reports, meetings, the usual." I nodded slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. "Funny," I said, pulling the crumpled receipt from my pocket and holding it up. "I didn't realize end-of-quarter reports involved dinner at La Belle Bistro." Ethan froze, his hand still on his tie. His eyes flicked to the receipt, then back to me. "Olivia, I can explain—" "Don't," I interrupted, my voice sharp. "Don't insult me by lying again. I know, Ethan. I know about her." He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. For the first time in years, he looked genuinely caught off guard. "How long?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "How long have you been seeing her?" Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's not what you think." "Don't you dare," I snapped, my anger finally boiling over. "Don't you dare tell me it's not what I think when I saw you with her. I saw you, Ethan. Laughing, holding her hand. Do you have any idea what that felt like? To sit there and watch the man I've spent 10 years of my life with betray me like that?" He looked down at the floor, his shoulders slumping. "It's been a few months," he admitted quietly. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did." I let out a bitter laugh. "It just did? That's your excuse? While I've been here holding this family together, raising our son, you've been out playing house with someone else?" "Olivia, I'm sorry," he said, stepping toward me. "I never wanted to hurt you or Liam. I've been feeling so lost. The stress from work, the pressure." "Don't you dare blame this on work," I cut him off. "This isn't about stress. This is about you making a choice to lie, to cheat, to destroy everything we've built." Ethan's face crumpled, and for a moment, I thought I saw regret in his eyes. But it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. "What about Liam?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Do you even realize what this is doing to him? He wrote in his birthday list that all he wants is for you to come home more. He misses you, Ethan. And I've been lying to him, telling him you're working late when the truth is you're out with her." Ethan's face paled. "Liam, he wrote that?" I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "He doesn't want toys or games. He just wants his dad. And you've been too busy living your double life to even notice." There was a long silence between us, the weight of everything unsaid hanging in the air. Finally, Ethan spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do you want me to do?" I stared at him, my heart breaking all over again. "I want you to leave," I said firmly. I need time to think, and I need you to stay away until I figure out what's best for Liam." Ethan hesitated, but he nodded. "Okay," he said quietly. "I'll go." As he packed a bag and left the house, I stood in the doorway, watching him walk away. Part of me wanted to scream, to beg him to stay and fix this, but I knew better. This wasn't something that could be fixed with apologies or promises. This was broken, and I wasn't sure it could ever be put back together. That night, after Liam was asleep, I sat in my room, staring at the receipt and the letter he'd written. I knew I couldn't let this define me. I couldn't let Ethan's betrayal destroy me. I had to be strong. For Liam and for myself. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of clarity I hadn't felt in months. Ethan was gone, and for the first time the house felt quiet. Not the comforting kind of quiet, but the kind that reminded me of everything that had been lost. Still, I knew I couldn't let myself drown in the pain. I had to do something, not just for me, but for Liam. After dropping Liam off at school, I called Rachel. "I need your help," I said, my voice steady but determined. "Anything," she replied without hesitation. "I want to tell my story," I said, "not just to Ethan, but to everyone. I need to take back control of my life." Rachel was quiet for a moment. "How do you want to do that?" I glanced at the stack of blank canvases leaning against the wall in my living room. I hadn't painted in years, not since Liam was born, but the urge to create was suddenly overwhelming. "Through my art," I said, "I'm going to paint everything. What I've been through, what I've felt, what I've lost. And I'm going to show it to the world." Rachel didn't question me. "Let's do it," she said. "There's an art exhibition coming up at the community center. I'll help you get everything ready." For the next few weeks, I poured every ounce of my pain, anger, and heartbreak into my paintings. Each stroke of the brush felt like a release, a way to process everything I'd been holding inside. One painting showed a woman standing in the rain. Her face turned away as a man walked into the distance. Another depicted a child sitting alone at a birthday party, surrounded by empty chairs. But the centerpiece of the collection was the most personal, a man standing between two worlds, one hand reaching toward a family and the other toward a shadowy figure in the distance. When the day of the exhibition arrived, I felt a mix of nerves and determination. Rachel helped me set up the paintings, and as people began to filter into the gallery, I spotted Ethan walking in. He looked hesitant, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. I didn't approach him. Instead, I let the paintings speak for themselves. As he moved through the gallery, I watched his expression shift. At first, he looked confused, then shocked, and finally, ashamed. When he reached the centerpiece painting, he stopped and stared at it for what felt like an eternity. Vanessa, the woman I'd seen him with, was standing a few feet away, her face pale as she realized the truth of what she was seeing. Ethan turned to me, his voice low. "Olivia, I didn't know you felt this way." I crossed my arms, keeping my voice steady. "Of course you didn't. You were too busy living your other life to notice." Vanessa stepped forward, her voice trembling. "You told me you were separated, that you were only staying for your son." I raised an eyebrow, my anger simmering just below the surface. "Is that what he told you? Well, now you know the truth." Vanessa looked at Ethan, her face a mix of betrayal and disgust. "I can't believe I fell for this," she muttered before walking out of the gallery. Ethan stood there, looking lost. "Olivia, don't," I said, cutting him off. "This isn't about you anymore. This is about me, about Liam, and about moving forward. You made your choices, Ethan. Now you have to live with them." The rest of the evening was a blur. People came up to me, praising the raw emotion in my work, sharing their own stories of heartbreak and resilience. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of purpose, a sense of strength. When I got home that night, Liam was already asleep. I sat by his bed, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "We're going to be okay," I whispered. I promise." The days after the exhibition felt like a turning point. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't consumed by anger or sadness. Instead, I felt lighter, as if I'd finally let go of the weight I'd been carrying for so long. The paintings had done more than tell my story, they had helped me heal. Ethan tried to reach out a few times, sending long-winded texts and emails apologizing, asking for another chance. But I didn't respond. I wasn't ready to forgive him, and I wasn't sure I ever would be. My focus was on Liam and on building a life where we could both feel safe and happy. One Saturday morning, as I was making pancakes in the kitchen, Liam came running in, his face lit up with excitement. "Mom, look what I made," he said, holding up a drawing. I knelt down to look at it. It was a picture of the two of us standing in front of a house with a big sun shining overhead. "It's us," he explained, "and we're happy." Tears welled up in my eyes, but this time they weren't from sadness. "It's beautiful, Liam," I said, pulling him into a hug. "I love it." "Are we going to be okay, Mom?" he asked, his voice small. I kissed the top of his head. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be more than okay." Over the next few months, I threw myself into my work and my art. I started teaching an after-school art class at Liam's school, helping kids express themselves through painting and drawing. It was something I'd always wanted to do, but had never made time for. Now, it felt like the perfect way to combine my love for teaching and my passion for art. One day, Rachel stopped by with a surprise. "You're not going to believe this," she said, holding up a flyer. "The gallery wants to feature your work in a solo exhibition." I stared at her, stunned. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," she said, grinning. "They said your story resonated with so many people, and they want to showcase more of your work." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Then I smiled, a real, genuine smile. "I guess it's time to start painting again." The exhibition became a celebration of resilience and hope. This time, the paintings weren't about heartbreak or betrayal. They were about healing, about finding strength in the face of adversity. One of the most popular pieces was a painting of Liam and me sitting under a tree, the sunlight streaming through the branches. It was called A New Beginning. Ethan came to the exhibition, but this time he stayed in the background. He didn't try to talk to me, and I was grateful for that. I wasn't angry anymore, but I also wasn't ready to let him back into my life. He had his own journey to take, and I had mine. As the exhibition came to a close, I stood in the gallery, looking at the paintings that told my story. Rachel came up beside me, a glass of champagne in her hand. "You did it," she said, smiling. "You turned something painful into something beautiful." I nodded, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. "I guess I did." That night, as I tucked Liam into bed, he looked up at me with his big, curious eyes. "Mom, are you happy now?" I thought about his question for a moment, then smiled. "Yes, Liam, I am. And you know what? We're going to keep getting happier every day." As I turned off the light and closed his door, I realized that, for the first time in a long time, I believed it. We were going to be okay. No, we were going to be better than okay. We were going to thrive.